just want to party, party just for you. We just want the money just for you.
Actor Donald Glover's musical alter ego, Childish Gambino, performed his new song, This Is America, on Saturday Night Live last weekend. Now the new music video for the song is inspiring a national conversation.
This is America. Don't got you slipping now. Look how I'm living now. Police be tripping now. Yeah, this is America.
The video shows Glover dancing as chaos unfolds in the background. It uses symbolism to tackle topics like gun violence and racism. This video has now more than 62 million views on YouTube since it was released on Saturday. At one point, it got nearly 1 million views in a single hour. Rolling Stone contributor Tre Johnson calls the video a nightmare we can't afford to look away from. He is with us now. This video, this song, it opens with an act of horror.
It does. It does.
And it's one of the most arresting things I've seen in a long time, where enjoying the music, and then I went, oh!
Yeah.
Right.
What has, I think, been this reaction? What was your initial reaction to it?
I mean, my initial reaction was just pure shock, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm used to, like a lot of America, I'm used to Donald Glover being this very affable comedian.
So friendly.
Yeah. He smiles,
So
he dances.
clever,
and stuff.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You look at him on Community and things like that. In Atlanta, I think you have a different take on his brand, and this obviously represents a different shift in the conversation, both for his brand and for his art.
And so to explain it, it's essentially a massacre by gun.
Yes, it is. I mean, it feels kind of relentless, right? You go from scene to scene to scene, and it seems like you just can't catch your breath while he's dancing from moment to moment to moment.
You know what also is important here is that what's happening in the background is just as important as what's happening in the foreground.
Absolutely.
I want to show a clip. We should tell the viewers before we show it that this is a very disturbing scene, because I'm like Nora. When I first watched it, I thought, God, this is tough, and then I watched it 3 more times, just because I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and then you see the brilliance of it. And I want to talk to you about the message he's trying to send. But let's see that clip from the church scene.
This is America. Don't got you slipping now. Don't got you slipping now. Look what I'm whipping up.
That's the Charleston church shooting, essentially, yeah.
What is the message there, Tre? What should we take from this video?
There's a lot to unpack in there, right?
So, you want to unpack that scene?
Yeah, I'll do my best. I think there's a couple things, right? I think one, I'm struck by how jubilant he looks dancing into the room, and it talks about, to me, the scene shows the abruptness of violence when it's visited in America. Like, there's no warning, there's no precipitation around what's going to happen, and here it is, this very joyous black choir in the midst of jubilation and celebration, immediately gunned down. And then I think, as I've been saying to a lot of people, the crazy thing to watch about Glover's performance throughout this video is how much he goes from the moment of like wanton violence to shifting his face just to a whole nother emotion. I also think it's very insidious to look at the way that the children are the ones who are constantly handling the guns here in the video, and what it talks about, like the legacy that we have around normalizing around gun violence and the exposure to black children.
And there's also another level at which this works, I think, which is there's an artistic trope of African-American music and the choir in the background, which has a very familiar look, right, in the context of a music video or musical performance, and then it switches immediately. So it's not just current violence, but it's playing on those tropes in the art as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, I think the sound of this song kind of carries through the legacy of black music and culture over generations in this country, and how much we've also often taken advantage of it.
So what's your take on the message he wants us to get from this video, black and white? What's he saying to us?
Well, one, I think it's the idea of that violence feels differently, looks differently, and is impacted differently in an African-American experience. And I think that's important to call out. I think he is trying to use his wider platform to elevate that. I think there's also this other thing, too, around, you can see that he's grappling with what do you do when you're a black artist who in turn like absorbs the pain of your community and needs to turn it into art? And so there's this weird cycle that we have in America where we turn trauma into music and art, and then it's consumed by the masses, sometimes without much sensitivity.
And you write that closing scene, which we just saw, is in some ways when he's running from the mob is the most terrifying of all.
I thought so for sure. I mean, look, you know,
we don't know who's chasing him.
We don't know who's chasing him.
Yeah.
And I think too, there's this thing about like that type of artistic expression might come at a cost for him. And I think that's the thing that struck me the most, is that here he is going off script from what we expect of him. And that might be a true danger for both his mobility and freedom and his artistic voice, getting dragged back to the sunken place.
Do we really quickly, can we process something like this now, or does it get shredded and spread out in social media so people are more apt to miss a message?
No, I don't know. I mean, 62 million views. I feel like I'm 60 million of those views myself. I feel like it means that people are having a conversation about this, and it begs going back to
It's an important conversation to have. Thank you, Tre, for joining us this morning. We'll be right back. You're watching CBS This Morning.